So back I am again as promised, and I'm just coming on to outline a technique that I use with some clients who suffer from anger issues. Anger is something which you can can easily run away with a person until it becomes quite uncontrollable. But the really interesting thing is that actually if you give somebody something physical to actually hold on to, then that creates a link between their behaviour and the reaction, and it gives your client thinking time, which is really essential when we're talking about things to do with anger. And anger is quite prevalent in today's society. I dealt with a guy who had road rage issues, and I've also dealt with somebody who was always very, very angry with her partner when he came home from work late, or something that he said didn't tally up in her own mind. And I've dealt with lots of different other anger issues too. It's something that we see quite often coming into the consulting room. So a really, really simple technique is this one. I talked to the person about how their anger manifests itself and how quick they think they are to anger. And in the particular example of the case that I dealt with, a particular person who I devised this for, they said that, their anger issues were extreme. So they went from 0 to 1,000 with no stopping in between, very, very, very fast. So I likened that to having a very short fuse, and obviously that phrase, having a short fuse, is something that people can really relate to because they hear it in everyday life. Now, what I did was I gave him a demonstration, and I said, if you imagine that this is your fuse, what you're doing is going from here to here with no stopping in between. It's very, very short, and up until today, that's how your fuse has looked. But then I said, I'm going to give you something else, a gift, and I want you to keep this with you. And I gave him a much longer piece of ribbon, and as you can see, this ribbon's been well used. It's a shiny piece of Christmas ribbon, presumably. But anyway, it doesn't matter what the ribbon looks like. It could be a piece of string. It could be, a bead, some form of necklace. It could be anything. But the point is that what you're doing is you're actually handing them a longer fuse. And what he said was, when he came back to see me the next time, is that he had kept it in his pocket, and if anybody had started the triggering process, so they'd lit the fuse at this end, what he did was he got it out of his pocket, and he literally did what I'm doing here. He really just stroked the piece of ribbon, and by the time he got to the end, he had thought about a different way of reacting. And he said he used it in lots and lots of different scenarios in that week, between explaining how his anger made him feel and then having this piece of string or ribbon to actually, diffuse the situation. And it's a technique that I've actually used quite often with other people in all sorts of different situations. It's simple, but what it does is it just puts the pause between, the fuse, which used to be this tiny little piece of, split second, to maybe a few more seconds, where the person can actually feel for the piece of string. It's tactile, it grounds them. In mindfulness terms, it makes them, it gets them into the moment. It prevents that snap decision of reacting in an angry way. So it's a really, really valuable, simple technique that you can use with clients. Or if you are a person who's got, a bit of a short fuse, if you want to go from that to that, get yourself a nice long piece Can be longer than this if you want it to be. Nice long piece of ribbon. Make it a pretty piece of ribbon, or, you know, an attractive piece of ribbon, something that you don't mind carrying around in a handbag or a pocket. And begin to use it. If somebody's starting to make you angry, feel that moment. Invest in that particular second. Reach for your fuse and really begin to think about how you're going to react when you get to the end of that. Quite often what this is going to do is prevent you from ever getting to the end of it, to the end of that fuse. I hope that makes sense, and if you've got any questions or any examples of where this would be really, really useful, then obviously let me know. It's a really unbelievably simple technique, but it really, really works for anger issues. It really helps. Okay, so I'm just gonna say I hope you have a really, really fantastic week, and I hope to speak to some of you soon. See you later. Bye.